All right, I'm the Flat Rate Master. Today, we're talking about my diagnostic routine. All right, last week I did a video on my vehicle inspection routine. You guys liked it, and I planned this video to follow it. So in this video, we're gonna get through my basic steps of diagnostics, how I go about it. Not going to get into specifics because obviously an evap code is going to be different than a lean code versus a, can fault, etc. So it's going to be just a base overview of my process of where I go to every time to make sure it gets done. Let's get to it. All right, so we're going to have to pretend a little bit because this vehicle isn't here for a diagnostic. It's already been diagnosed, but we're going to pretend that's what it's here for, is a check engine light. My normal procedure on a check engine light is to bring it in the shop first thing and scan for codes. Now, I always do a complete scan. Covers you on as far as no other faults in the system. You get your readiness monitors, what's going on with that, and allows you to look at any other problems that might be coming up. Now, obviously, I told you, not here for a check engine light, but wanted to give you an example. Now, after I've done the system scan, I will go into the individual modules and look at codes, get my, codes I have, and I will enter them into our management system so I have a record of them along with report. Obviously, I don't have any codes in that one, so I have a 604E for the tire pressure monitor. Tire pressure light's been on. It's been on for a while. We've serviced this vehicle for a while, so just what I'm looking at for this. But always, do a system scan. Cover your butt. You want to make sure you have documentation of any other pending codes. For instance, ABS, airbag. Document them to cover your rear end. It's important. Nothing worse than you got a pending code in the airbag module, and after you finish the check engine light, the airbag light decides to come on and the customer's all ticked off about it. Document all your codes. All right, I've got my codes. What's my next step? Well, usually a frosty beverage or coffee. Then, because our system is linked to Identifix, I go into Identifix and punch in the code. Now, there's two reasons I do this. One, Identifix, for the most part, not always, we'll get into that, links any TSBs to that code in your description. For instance, I punched in a common code on this vehicle, 3719, and I've got 3 different TSBs. I do that so I can quickly see if there's any TSBs that are related to this code. Always, always, always check for TSBs. You never know. That code, there might be a known problem with it, might give you a direction, might give you, oh, this is covered under an extended warranty, I need to ship it to the dealer. But it's important because it might prevent you from making a very expensive mistake. Now, if I punch in a code and there are no TSBs, I jump over to all data and I go through manually through the TSBs under the system I'm operating under, powertrain management. I will physically go through and look through all the TSBs because I have been bit by a TSB with the description I've got for the complaint not listed under that the code I have. So I always go through and just look through all the TSBs, making sure I don't have that issue. Now, I'm going to say something about Identifix. If you're using it as a silver bullet, most fixes, all that stuff, stop it. While that is a nice thing to help build your confidence, don't just throw a part at it. I use Identifix for my diagnostic routine because of the great tests they give you. You punch in a code, they give you, oh, test this, test this, test this, and if this fails, it's this. If this fails, it's that. That's why I use it, not for a silver bullet. I'm not looking for the most flung part. I'm looking for tests to verify that's the problem. Now, I'm not going to lie and say I don't go, oh, well, I probably should look at that to see if it's bad, but I still test. Always test, don't guess. Let's say I have no information from Identifix. They just give me a code description. Well, we're getting old school here. I'm going to look at code description, code setting criteria, because you want to know when that code sets, why it's setting. Once I've got an understanding of the code I'm dealing with, now admittedly, if I'm dealing with a code I've dealt with several times, I'm going to hit Identifix, hit TSBs, just in case there's anything that has changed, and then I'm going to go right to testing. But if you're unfamiliar with the code set criteria and code description are vital pieces of information. There's a ton of great information in those two, just right there. Now, trouble trees. I hate trouble trees. You know, Honda always ends the same way. Replace PCM. You get to the bottom of the list, it says replace PCM with known good. Yeah, that's not good enough for me. A lot of times, you know, they'll have you chasing ohms and, you know, all this stuff. I might glance through a trouble tree, but chances are I'm going through my own process of diagnosing that problem. I'm going to go through and diagnose it my own way. After I know code setting criteria, I know what to look at. I know what to look for. And if you don't understand code setting criteria and code description, Scanner Danner, Diagnose Dan, SMA, you know, start watching those channels. They give great examples of how you don't need a trouble tree for Scanner Danner, how you don't need a trouble tree to diagnose these issues. You just need code setting criteria and code description. Now, sometimes those will lead you down a black hole too. Forward example of cam circuit codes when it's out of time. Now, obviously, after I've done my research, I'm going to jump to the car and start looking at either data, depending on what I'm dealing with. You know, like for instance today, I had a Volvo with a small evap code. Well, first thing did I do? Did I rip out the smoke machine? No. I went to my scan tool. I've got a test for the evap system. Let's test, make sure the purge valve works. Let's test, make sure the leak detection pump works. So I did the test in my scan tool and verified, yes, I have a small leak. Well, at that point, I knew purge valve worked, the leak detection pump worked because it didn't set circuit codes, and so next step was a smoke test. Hooked up the smoke machine, closed my leak detection pump, sealed the system, and guess what? I had a leak. Sad part was it was the leak detection pump that another shop installed this year, and even though it was a brand new part, they broke the retaining clip for the one hose. So it had just pulled off a little bit enough to have a small leak. So unfortunately, the customer has to buy a new leak detection pump because that shop was bought out and is no longer in business. The rest of the stuff is gonna be understanding fuel trims. You know, if you understand fuel trims, you can learn a lot about how a car is running very quickly, very easily, determine, you know, if it can breathe. All that stuff is skills you need to learn with training and time. Experience. You know, there's training and experience are the two things you need to do. You need to diagnose cars, you need to get your butt kicked a few times, and you need to go to training. So plenty of training opportunities out there on YouTube. You know, channels I mentioned. Wells VE, Mike Becker, great training series. You know, binge watch that channel. But it's all about understanding why that code is setting and understanding the direction you need to go from there. Most of this stuff is not rocket science, but you need to understand how the system works. So that is my basic diagnostic routine, what I do every time I have a check engine light or a drivability complaint. So that's my starting diagnostic routine. If you like it, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give me a thumbs down. Let me know what I should change. Comments are always appreciated, and as always, thanks for watching. I am the Flat Rate Master.